it's a time to celebrate. And I know each of us has been affected. But with our celebrations, we came up with the CAS Inspire program. And this program saw us have webinars, which are now all online on the CAS YouTube channel for you to actually, go and view later on and use in your practice. We've got podcasts and lots of resources to support primary and secondary teachers. So that was a community coming together to deliver the CAS Inspire program, which took us through the first 2 years of the pandemic. We've also had excellent relationships with the computing hubs across the country, and very importantly, locally here in Devon, Cornwall, and the Southwest as a whole. We've also put a great emphasis on diversity and inclusion, as you will see that reflected across our workshops and our keynotes today, and you will be hearing from Carly shortly around that very big topic there. The pandemic has also given opportunity and insights. So we've had to adapt to online learning pedagogies. Okay, overnight, teachers are great adapters, and as a former teacher myself, I know what a struggle it's been. Teaching runs in my family. My sister's a teacher. My mom was a former teacher and head teacher, and it's been a struggle for everyone. So, well done us for adapting to all of these online learning pedagogies. Remote learning, managing parental expectations, that's a massive challenge. All of the different tools that we've had to adapt and use. Online meetings, how many times have we been with you on mute? It just happens. It's still happening right now. Managing the online learning environments, I started keeping a list of all of the things that have changed. Things such as your parents' evenings are online. Are they staying? Is it going to stay that way? Are we back in face-to-face? There's so many different things that have changed, okay? And CAS has changed. Prior to the pandemic, all meetings were face-to-face. Now we are in an emerging world. We are experimenting with hybrid community meetings, and that has its own challenges in community leaders having the right skills to deliver those meetings, the confidence to deliver those meetings, and we're still working through all of those different things that come about with the new hybrid work. So if there's any feedback that you ever want to share, please do share that, because CAS is a community and we are all about sharing and empowering and supporting each other. Okay, education as a whole, just not computing education, has changed. And we continue to work with all of the emerging technologies that I've mentioned, and also looking at things like how artificial intelligence is impacting the classroom in things like assessment. Okay, but it's a new world. I'm excited to embrace this new world, as I'm sure many of you are also. So once again, welcome. And I'm going to hand over to our first keynote of the day, who is Carly Britton. She's the Senior Director of Technical Support at JW Fire, is her Twitter handle, and she's the Chair of Women in Technology. So Carly, over to you, please.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Apologies that I can't be with you today. I did plan on coming down to Plymouth. I live in Bath. I'm originally from Plymouth, but I did plan on coming down, but I've got COVID. So this is a reflection of the world we live in, but thankfully the event is hybrid, so I can still join you remotely, which is great. So I wanted to start off talking today with a visualization activity. I'm quite a visual learner myself, so please get involved. I'm just going to go on to my next slide. So I want you to clear your mind, close your eyes and relax. Please close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do that. I can't see everyone in the room, but just relax. And I want you to imagine that you're not a teacher, you're not a student, but instead you're working in the technology industry. And it's the first day of your dream tech job. And off you go. And on your way, you grab a coffee on your way to the office. And as you leave the coffee shop, you see a loved up couple outside holding hands, eating breakfast together. And you arrive at the office, and as you walk into the building, you're greeted by the friendly receptionist. You take the elevator to the 3rd floor, and the doors open. And the room is filled with busy software engineers building the latest technology. And one of the engineers stands up and greets you and shows you to your new office where your new PA is waiting for you. And you can't wait to get stuck in. And later that day, the busy CTO pops in to introduce themselves and asks you if you're settling in well. And you're really excited to start your new career journey. Now open your eyes. And I want you to answer these questions. Was the loved up couple outside the coffee shop eating breakfast 2 women? Was the receptionist that greeted you when you entered the building a man? Was your new PA in a wheelchair? And was the busy CTO that popped in to see you a female? Did you answer no to any of those questions? And if you did, that's okay, and that is completely normal. That's unconscious bias, and it's human nature. And it's the brain's unconscious bias function. It's what kept the human race going for millions and millions of years. So here's a quote on unconscious bias. So unconscious bias is often defined as prejudice or unsupported judgments in favor of or against one thing, person, or group as compared to another in a way that is usually considered unfair. So imagine that you are walking around a national park and you suddenly saw a bear. Your fight or flight unconscious bias would kick in to tell you that you're in danger, that this bear could kill you. And in that scenario, you don't want your unconscious bias to tell you, oh, maybe this is a friendly bear that wants to cuddle. You know, unconscious bias is not always a bad thing. However, in our day-to-day lives, having these unconscious biases are what are preventing us from being completely equal. So in order for us to achieve equality, we must disrupt this unconscious bias. And unconscious biases are deep-rooted and embedded in our culture. You know, you'll see the picture that I've put up here. It's a great example. And I'm a parent, and as a parent, I have made a conscious effort to not assign toys a gender in my household. I have a son and a daughter, and I've encouraged them to play with all toys. So they play with Barbies and unicorns and robots and Lego and fancy dress, all sorts of things. There's not certain toys that are my daughter's and certain toys that are my son's. It's all a mix. And this was great until they started school. And then all of a sudden, my son doesn't want to play with those toys anymore because they are girls' toys. And he doesn't want my daughter to play with the boys' toys. Unless he's fully engaged with play, then he'll play with all the toys again. But it's almost deep-rooted, deep down, he almost feels like he shouldn't. And he doesn't want my daughter to play with the toys that she shouldn't be playing with. My daughter, however, still will play with all toys. She doesn't seem to have that same concerns that my son does. So the Lego Group commissioned a study last year, and their findings were really interesting. They surveyed nearly 7,000 parents and children aged 6 to 14. And they discovered that girls today feel increasingly confident to engage in all types of play, all types of toys, all types of creative activities, but they remain held back by society's ingrained gender stereotypes as they grow older. And this aligns with what I was saying about my daughter. You know, at the moment, she'll play with all toys, but I do worry that as she gets older, she will also change and try and live by the stereotype. So going back to this survey, so that the parents who answered the survey were almost 6 times more likely to think of jobs like scientists and athletes as being male jobs over women's jobs, and even 8 times likely to think of engineering jobs as more of a male job than a woman's job. So me as a woman in technology, you know, I provide my children with these opportunities to explore all types of toys. We talk about all types of jobs, and we read a diverse range of books. But unfortunately, this isn't the case in many households. So this is Disney's Encanto. I don't know if anybody's watched this. I'm sure many of you've watched this. It's an absolutely brilliant film. So if you haven't watched it, I do recommend it. It's got a great soundtrack. And this came out towards the end of last year. And with all Disney films, it holds an important message. I mean, it includes representation of Afro-Latino and non-Black Latino culture. And the crux of Encanto is about facing generational trauma. It's about embracing change and knowing when family traditions have their place and when they don't. And it's a great film. It has a great story and it has some really powerful, strong female characters. And with all mainstream Disney films comes the additional Disney store merchandise. And it was really interesting with this one because Disney didn't really anticipate the behavior of girls that would be watching this film. So they anticipated that girls would be desperate to get their hands on Isabella merchandise. So Isabella is the one with the long purple dress, second in from in the left. So Isabella is stereotypically Disney beautiful, and she has the gift of power and conjure beautiful flowers and plants. So Disney anticipated that, of course, girls would love this character, and they do, but not quite at the same level as they like her sister Louisa, who's right on the end next to her on the left. So Twitter blew up. It was, for those of you on Twitter, you probably saw some of this, but for those of you that didn't, it went crazy. Disney didn't anticipate the demand for Louisa merchandise. So Louisa's gift is superhuman strength. And I struggle to understand how Disney got this so wrong, because of course girls want strong female role models that they can relate to and aspire to. And even Disney, with their endless resources, couldn't prepare for this. Their unconscious bias led them to get it so wrong. And they simply didn't have the merchandise to meet the demand. And my daughter also is a huge fan of Louisa. So I've seen this in my own household. And Louisa is a role model, and girls need role models. And if a girl does not have someone in their life who is, it works in tech, who is an engineer, or teaches them about the opportunities in engineering, would they even consider it? Would they even know it's a possibility? And likely the answer is no. It's really crucial within my industry to be a female role model to girls. Why? There are huge stereotypical barriers to overcome, and the stigma that engineering is for men, or engineering is boring, or engineering is working on engines. From my experience, the technology industry is one of the most fun, challenging, but exciting, rewarding careers available. And there are so many different types of roles. There's literally something for everyone. So why do we care? Okay, so STEM subjects have a higher representation of males than females, but that's okay, right? Let's leave it to the guys. They can do it. The technology industry is making some of the biggest advances in our society, in our world, solving things like global warming, making medical breakthroughs, creating technology that is literally changing our lives and making our lives better. And half of the population are female. So we deserve to have the female perspective when these technologies are being built. So not only do we need women in the industry to deal with the gender imbalance, but there are more jobs in the tech industry than there are people to fill them. And recruitment is a huge struggle. The tech industry is booming. So the quote I've got here, companies across the UK are hiring rapidly to help grow their businesses, following 13.5 billion investment into UK tech in the first half of 2021. So it's crazy. Nearly 3 million people in the UK are employed in the tech industry. It's huge. So let's think about the future. So Dell Technologies carried out a report, and the outcome predicted that 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet. I mean, just let that sink in for a few moments. So 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. I mean, it's exciting, but it's scary all at once. If we don't prepare our kids now, will they pursue careers that potentially could be superseded by technology? And technology is advancing at such a rapid rate that the skills that are being taught at school and university are just the foundations. The real career learning begins in the workplace. And my kids often say to me, I mean, they're completely obsessed with technology. They're obsessed with iPhones and iPads. And they always say to me, I wonder what phone I'm going to have when I'm older. And I always say, that's if phones even exist when you're older. And they can't really get their head around that. And I think it's hard to imagine the world changing that dramatically, because phones have evolved from when the first phone was invented in 1876 to now. We still have a phone, it's just extremely evolved. And technical evolution has sped up dramatically over the years, and sped up is the key phrase here. And this is something that people, especially people that don't work in technology, but sometimes people struggle understanding this. Each generation of technology improves over the last, and the rate of progress from version to version speeds up. And I read an example recently that explained this really well. So imagine making a chair with hand tools. So you're making a chair with hand tools, you know, that's going to take you a while. And then imagine making a chair with power tools. And then finally, imagine making chairs on an assembly line. You know, production gets faster and faster at each step. And it's exactly the same in the technology evolution. I mean, imagine how many people it would take to make chairs by hand compared to chairs on an assembly line. I think that's a really good example. So I wanted to show some examples of this. So I've picked 4 different industries to talk about. And the first one is the tourism industry. So on the top left corner is my first example. So the hotel check-in process job. So normally, you know, previously you'd go to a hotel and you'd see somebody and they would check you in. And that process has now been superseded by self-check-in machines. And I recently stayed at one of the NYX hotels in London. And this is exactly what greeted me. And I scanned the QR code, I checked in on my phone, and then I sent a message from my phone to the machine and my card was printed. And the process was quick, it was easy, there was no queuing. And also I had the pre-check-in option before I even arrived. So you can literally scan your phone, grab your key card and off to your room. And, you know, for hotels, this is efficient, this is cost effective and easy. And it's really easy to see that technology in the future will scrap the need for any human receptionists across all industries. They will just be replaced with these machines. So the next one, bottom right corner, hospitality industry. So a couple of years ago, I visited, so for those of you, you probably recognize this, Thatcher's, good old Somerset cider, one of my favorites. But a couple of years ago, I visited the Thatcher's factory in Somerset for a tour. And so Thatcher's was founded in 1904, and it provided manufacturing jobs for the locals in the area. I think in the early days, they even paid people in cider. Sorry, I'm just going to drink a second. They paid their workers in cider. I don't think they do that anymore. Hope not anyway. So they needed to meet the demand. They were growing and they needed to meet the demand and scale in around 2016, 2017. So Thatcher's purchased some automation to do some of the manufacturing work. And these machines do the canning, and they've got state-of-the-art bottling, which can cap and label 20,000 bottles every hour. And they've also got a keg line that produces 600 pints per minute. So imagine how many humans it would take to do that. It's just crazy. So this is just an example of many robots that Thatcher's has purchased. They've got loads and loads of robots, and Thatcher's only have about 200 staff, and they're global now. So that's crazy. That's a small amount of staff for the size of the company. So the next one I'm going to talk about is transport. Top right, transport industry. So I don't know if anyone knows what this is. Apart from it, yeah, it's a car, but it's also it's a self-driving car. And next year we'll see the introduction of self-driving taxis. And this example is the Hyundai Motional, and it's an American autonomous vehicle company which is launching next year in Vegas. This is really going to take its toll on the job market. There are approximately 18 million taxis on the road in the world. So once this takes off, what's next? Self-driving buses, self-driving trains, self-flying planes. I don't really fancy getting on a self-driving plane, but this is the way we're going. And this is the realism of the future. I saw a quote in the Los Angeles Times that said self-driving trucks could replace 1.7 million American truckers in the next 10 years. So literally, you're at your factory and your self-driving truck pulls up and you fill it up and tell it where to go, and off it goes. That's a lot of jobs that are going to be lost through self-driving vehicles. And then finally, the bottom left-hand corner is the medical industry. We're already witnessing, robot surgeons performing critical operations across the world. And it's only a matter of time before they completely replace us. Again, I struggle with this one a little bit. I'm not sure I feel completely comfortable, but I'm sure they're very safe. But robotic doctors will make more accurate and effective treatments for patients compared to their human counterparts. So there's less chance of infection due to the more sterile measures, and there's no room for human error. You also you haven't got to worry if the surgeons aren't available. You've got machines that's going to do this, so obviously this is going to take over. And I think one of the important things to think about is, if you've got students that want to pursue these sorts of careers, make sure you educate them and let them realize that you can still work in these industries. You just need to be working behind the technology that's gonna be built to supersede the jobs. I think that's really key. So this is just a few examples. However, every industry is affected by technology replacing humans. So the key is prepare your students and educate them, I think, is the key point here. So I really wanted to talk about this. So the digital divide. Research for the UK digital strategy suggests that there are a number of important barriers, and more than one, that may affect individuals at one time. And this is something that I felt was really important to talk about, because not everyone has the same opportunities, as you well know, for those of you who are teachers. And so the quote here is, 11,300,000 people lack the basic digital skills to use the internet effectively. And some of these barriers are access. So not everyone has the ability to connect to the internet and go online. Skills. So not everyone has the ability to use the internet and online services. Confidence. So some people fear online crime, or they lack trust, or they just don't know how to get online or use the internet. Motivation. Not everyone sees why using the internet can be relevant and helpful. So that's just some of the barriers. And there is a group of people that are most likely affected by this. So people that are in lower income groups, people without a job, people in social housing, people with disabilities, and people whose first language isn't English. So what's available for these people? What's being done at your school to make sure every pupil has access to digital learning? So at the beginning of 2018, I got together with a colleague as we were both feeling really frustrated with the lack of women working in our industry and at our company. We couldn't understand why women weren't working with us when it was such a fun place to work. We just weren't getting women applying for roles. So we started brainstorming ideas on what we could do to change it. And after doing some local research, we did some national research, we soon realized that there wasn't enough role models for girls. So going back to these previous slides about Encanto, it's all about role models. And girls really needed to see representation of women working in tech to understand that this was even possible for them. So we also wanted them to have a reason to see us and have some hands-on experience and have an introduction to coding because it's so much fun. So we did, with our research, we discovered that the key age that we needed to target was around 11 to 13, and that was the ideal age to capture their interest, I guess, before they have got their friendship groups at secondary school and coding isn't cool anymore, STEM club isn't cool, I guess. But actually we did open that up because the interest was like 8 to 14, I think, in the end. But so we partnered with Plymouth Library, specifically the Plymouth Stock Library, and a hashtag Girl Code was born. And we've been running it since 2018. And obviously we had the pandemic and the libraries were closed. So I pivoted it and started running it on Zoom, which was challenging for those teachers that had to do remote teaching. I don't know how you did it because it was a whole other beast. But the great thing about Girl Code is we have girls that attend because they are already interested in coding, and this is great, it's really good. But we've also got the girls that just come along because their parents have signed them up for a free activity at the library. And then we also have like the older sisters who don't really want to be there, but they've been dragged along with their younger sisters. So they tend to not act interested at all, but they are fully engaged by the end, which is great to see. But it's a great way of getting them coding, getting them doing an activity, but also, I talked to them at the beginning about my job and showing them representation of a woman working in this industry. And there was nothing like this in Plymouth. The library did a coding club. They still do a coding club, which is called Hello World, but it's mainly boys that attend. It is open to boys and girls, but it's mainly boys that attend that one. And we wanted to create something for the girls. We don't exclude boys. Boys are welcome to join, but we do aim it for girls. And over the past few years, I've been into schools and given career talks, and at the end of the talks, it's really interesting to hear what careers the girls are interested in pursuing. If I join in with a STEM club, so in this picture here, one of the right at the bottom in the middle, that's me attending a STEM club. I think it was Notre Dame School, that one. If I join in with a STEM club, the girls are already interested in pursuing STEM careers. They've got a really good idea of what they want to do, which is great. And I find that quite inspirational that they already know at that age what they want to do. And a lot of them have started personal projects to get them there. However, in like general school careers talks that I've done, it's a very mixed bag. The girls want to be hairdressers, Instagram influencers, work in retail. It's all great stuff. But when I mention engineering, they kind of giggle and don't really take it seriously until I tell them like the really cool projects I've worked on, and then they're interested then, and they start warming up to the idea, and then they want to know more, which is really good. So female role models and representation is a huge factor in encouraging girls to consider careers in technology. And STEM clubs are great. They're really good at attracting students who are already interested in STEM. And I'm not sure, you know, if your STEM clubs are mainly boys, if you work in a mixed school, but this female representation is key. And a quick win would be to create a display with strong females from STEM who have achieved amazing things. And a few years ago, Nevertheless podcast created some really nice posters. They created 8 posters, which are free to download. I put the URL on there. I really suggest, if you haven't seen these, to download these. They're free to download and print. And they've also released last year, they're available in 8 languages now as well. So they're really inclusive. But they're great, a great quick win. And I think it's also important to try and incorporate diversity into your lesson plans and resources. So on the right there, I've got Girls Who Code, and they created some free lesson plans featuring women in tech for teachers. And these are across different subjects. So it's not just for technology or IT lessons or science lessons. They've created resources across many different subjects. So this is a really good way of seeing, how could I incorporate women in tech across, or women in STEM in general, across a variety of subjects. And obviously, being teachers, you can make a real difference and impact, and just making reference to strong female role models within your lessons can really make all the difference to these students. So I wanted to briefly talk about resources. You may have some of these already. I don't really know much about funding for schools, apart from I've definitely seen some schools seem to be more aware of what's available and really utilize that. And they tend to have lots of resources. And then the other extreme, where I've been to schools and they've not had as many. I know that there's, it depends on the area you might be in and those sorts of things. But just to give you an idea, I did want to talk about resources. And if you've got lots of resources at your school already, that's great. So here are just some examples of physical resources that your school can purchase to run STEM events. And each one of these resources offers a curriculum or lesson plans with it. There's loads of these on the market, by the way, but this is just some of my favorites that I've tried myself and enjoyed to use. So the top right one, the one with the heart, that's a BBC Microbit. And it's a pocket-sized computer which enables students to create, learn, and code. And this is the particular one that I use when I run my Girl Code sessions. And actually, you don't actually need the physical resource for this. You can just go on the free website, and they've got a little simulation on there, so you could do the coding. It's all block coding. You could do the coding, and then you could see it on the simulation. But I just think having the physical device makes it more engaging for the students and makes it a bit more fun. And then the top left is the Makey, and this has won loads of awards. It's a electronic invention kit, and this is for all ages. And the Makey allows you to take everyday objects and combine them with the internet. So they give you these alligator clips, and you can attach them to any conductive material, and then you can control the keyboard of your computer. You can use I think I've done it where I've attached one to a banana and made a musical keyboard. And there's so much that you can create with this. It's so cool. And then the one right at the bottom, which obviously you'll know what that is, but that's Lego, and it's the Lego Education series. They've got Spike and Brick Q, and they give you lesson plans and workshops as well. And they literally do anything from kind of easy entry lessons to just huge limitless creative designs where the kids can kind of make it up as they go along. And I find this really engaging. It creates critical thinking, analyzing of data, and solving complex problems with kind of real world relevance. This is definitely one of my favorites. I'm a huge Lego fan anyway, and I went to the BET conference just before we went into lockdown, and I got a demo of this, and it was so much fun. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I get you to get close to the end?
Yeah, that's fine. I am close to the end. So sorry. And then the last one is Dual Bots, and that's actually one that's with girls in mind. So that's specifically one for girls. And then here's a few online resources. I'll just let you feel free to take a photo. Oh, feel free to take a photo of that if you want. STEM learning is great. You can get STEM ambassadors to come into your school and do workshops, career talks, and skills sessions. But yeah, I'll finish up. And that's me done.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carly, and I hope you do feel better very, very soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll start off the back of the last thing that Carly said. If you are interested in any physical computing resources, you are able to get those free of charge through the NCC Computing Hub, and they are here today. So please do speak with them, make connections with them. You'll be able to get hold of any physical computing resources, so the Crumbles, the Microbits, and Raspberry Pis. You can get hold of those.
Come to me, yeah, I'm the NCC.
Yeah, and Stuart can talk to you about any part of that. There's also free training available to you. I did smile during that and share with you 3 takeaways. Girls with muscles. Now, I have always lifted weights since I was 18. And a number of times I've been told I'm turning into a man. It's unbelievable. It still hasn't happened in 32 years. So, you know, lift weights if you wish, girls. I mean, I'm a fan of weights. They're very good, frankly. I like the subtitles there, diversity and inclusion. Very, very good. And all jobs, driving jobs, are going to literally disappear. And that's within the next 8 years, they're going to disappear. So, you know, automation, we're in the 4th industrial revolution. Our world is going to be turned upside down. It's already happening. So if you can just share with one person, one thing from our keynote today, I think we're going to start progressing and moving towards this equity and equality that's much, much needed. And if you are tweeting, please use the hashtag CASPLIM22, and it's up there. And also at Computing at School and at anyone else that you'd like to include. I'd like us all to have a photo before we leave. So if you are interested in a photo at the end, please come down to the front with a photo.
Wait a minute.
But I will pass over to Shirley to give some more information.
So yes, thank you, Carly. Thank you for some thought-provoking ideas. So I see us as in partnership, the universities in partnership with the schools and industry. We are that in-between stage. Can I imagine teaching my students to write the code for a self-driving car? What do you reckon, Jacob? You could do it? Yeah. So that's our next challenge. I find it interesting, the concept of no phones. Of course, I am of that generation where you didn't have a mobile phone. If you went walking and you got lost, well, you just had to work it out with an OS map, didn't you? So yes, lots of things to think about, and thank you for that, Carly. It's very interesting. So what's next? We have the 3 tracks, of course. After our photo, if you can bear it down here, if you are going to the primary track, then Jordan will take you up to A109, which is the room where that will be taking place. For secondary, I will ask Joe, who's not in the room at the moment, he will take people up to C206, which is this side of Portland Square up on the 2nd floor. Or if you're staying for the student track, you're going to hear David, who's walked in the back of the door, and he's going to be talking about AI. So, photo time, I believe, if you can bear it.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Carly.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll finish the Zoom call, and because it's the next bit is on a different Zoom link, and I'll see you in that Zoom room. Okay, thank you all. Bye for now.